Okay, I want to try a little experiment with you. Just close your eyes and picture the absolute most boring object in the known universe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about watching paint dry. I'm talking about something that actively, sucks the life out of a room just by existing.
I have a feeling I know exactly where you're going with this.
You guessed it.
Hmm?
The condominium meeting packet.
Yeah.
You know the one, right?
Yes.
The thick envelope that shows up, the stack of papers, the endless rows of tiny numbers.
And the neighbors arguing about the shade of beige in the hallway.
Exactly. It usually feels like total dry bureaucratic noise.
It absolutely has that reputation. I think for most people, the immediate instinct is to just glance at the total due line, maybe groan a little, and then file it away forever.
Right. But, and this is a big but, we have been digging through a specific stack of these documents for today's deep dive, and I have to say, it completely upended my expectations. If you actually look closer, like really look at these documents, they aren't just spreadsheets, they're stories, they're high-stakes dramas about power, money, survival, and, in this case, a pretty incredible financial magic trick.
Magic trick is a strong word, but honestly, in this context, it fits. Today, we are decoding the management report and budget proposal for the Condominio Horizon.
And just to set the stage, this isn't some standard, here's what we spent on light bulbs report. This is a rescue mission. We're looking at a management team, MBDGEST, that parachutes in halfway through the year in June 2025.
Right, into a situation that sounds like it was in a bit of a chaotic spiral.
A huge spiral. And the narrative arc here is just fascinating. They come in, they stabilize the ship, and then, for the 2026 budget, they propose this massive spending increase.
Huge! On paper, it looks like a giant hike.
But they claim, and this is the hook that grabbed us, that it won't actually cost the owners a single extra cent.
Which just sounds impossible.
It sounds like Ponzi scheme math, doesn't it? We're going to spend way more, but you won't pay more.
Yeah, how does that work?
So our mission today is to figure that out. We've got the financial report from June to December 2025, the debt analysis, and this very controversial 2026 budget breakdown.
Yeah.
So where do we even start?
We have to start with the takeover. You really can't understand the solution for 2026 until you understand the mess of 2025.
Right. So the documents show that MBD-GET took over in June 2025. Now, typically, these handovers happen at the start of the year, right?
Almost always.
Switching mid-year usually signals something went wrong.
Switching in June suggests urgency. It suggests that whatever was happening before just wasn't sustainable. And when you read their report, the language confirms it. They call it the transition period. But look at the specific words they use: integration, diagnosis, and normalization.
Normalization. That jumped out at me, too.
In the corporate world, and especially in property management, normalization is a polite professional way of saying
Things were an absolute mess before we got here.
exactly. It implies a state of deviation, of chaos.
It felt like triage. I was reading the list of immediate actions they took, and it wasn't just, we filed some papers. It was heavy lifting.
For sure.
They had to urgently contract maintenance for fire detection systems, for generators, CCTV, video intercoms.
Okay, let's just pause on that list for a second, because if you're a resident, that list should be terrifying.
Why terrified? I mean, every building needs those contracts, right? Seems standard.
They do need them. But the report frames these as actions taken to ensure legal compliance and basic safety.
Wow.
Which strongly implies that before June 2025, those contracts either didn't exist or they had lapsed and nobody noticed.
So you're saying there might have been a time where a complex like Horizon was basically operating without a safety net?
Essentially, yes. Imagine living in a luxury building. You pay your fees. You assume that if the power goes out, the generator kicks in so the elevators work.
Right.
You assume if there's a smoke alarm, the system is actually working. If those maintenance contracts weren't in place, that is a massive silent liability.
It's like driving a Ferrari without insurance or brakes.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And the liability isn't just physical, it's legal. If something had happened during that gap, the legal exposure for the condominium would have been catastrophic.
So the first 6 months for them were just about stopping the bleeding, plugging the holes.
Exactly. And they also mention organizing the treasury and verifying accounts, which is corporate speak for where's all the money?
Or at least, how much do we actually have?
Right. They talk about moving from uncertainty to rigor and transparency. It tells me the financial records they inherited might have been, a shoebox of receipts. Metaphorically.
Well, speaking of receipts, let's follow the money. We have the data for where the cash actually went during those 6 months. Total expenses were, what, about $108,579?
Which is a significant burn rate for half a year. But when you break it down, you see the reality of running a complex building.
I was looking at the line items. The biggest one, which actually surprised me, was cleaning. Over 15,000 euros just for cleaning for 6 months.
It sounds high, I know, but think about the scale. Horizon isn't just a small apartment building. It's a complex. You have lobbies, corridors, elevators, trash rooms.
Okay, that makes sense.
Sanitation is the most visible service. If the fire alarm isn't serviced, nobody notices until there's a fire. But if the hallway isn't vacuumed for 2 days, everyone notices.
That's fair. It's the curb appeal tax.
Precisely. Then you have the porteria, the concierge. That was over 13,000. And administration fees were nearly 14,000. Standard people costs?
But the one that really stood out to me, and I circled this, was the utility load. The energy bills were heavy.
Huge.
Electricity was over 16,000 euros combined for the garage, technical areas, and the blocks. And water for common areas was over 12,000.
That is a massive operational load, and it highlights a structural issue in how so many condos are run. You have these huge fixed costs that are just treated like a black hole.
You just pay the bill and move on.
Right. But as we'll see, GEST looked at those numbers and saw a huge opportunity.
Okay, but before we get to the strategy, we need to check the bank account. Because despite all that spending, they didn't go broke.
No, they actually stabilized it. They finished the year with a balance of about 44,700 euros in the bank. And there's a detail here I really liked. They consolidated everything into one bank, a Banxa.
Yeah, they noted that they zeroed out the accounts at another bank.
Right. It seems like a small detail, but it's about control. If you have money sitting in 3 different dormant accounts, you don't have a clear picture of your cash flow. Consolidating is a classic cleanup move.
Okay, but there is one black mark on the balance sheet, the debt problem, or as they call it, dívidas de condóminos.
The money owed by the owners themselves.
It's sitting at nearly 16,800 euros. That feels like a lot of missing cash for one building.
It is. It's roughly 10% of their annual operating budget just floating out there. That's money that should be fixing the roof or paying the concierge.
So who are these people? Is it just one person who refuses to pay?
It's a mix. You have small amounts, people who maybe just forgot a month, but then you have the legacy heavy hitters, debts that predate the new administration.
And how does a new admin even deal with that? It's so awkward, right? You have to see these people in the elevator.
Yeah, you can't exactly go knock on their door with a baseball bat.
Yeah, so what's the play?
They describe their strategy as firm but balanced.
Dutch means?
It translates to, we would really prefer you to pay voluntarily and we'll set up a payment plan. But if you ghost us, we are going to court. They use the word equity a lot in this section.
Explain that. Why equity for debt collection?
Well, think about it. If I pay my quota every single month to keep the lights on and the elevator running, and you don't, but we both get on the elevator, I'm subsidizing you.
I'm paying for your ride.
You're paying for their ride, and that breeds deep resentment in a building. So the administration is saying, we have to collect this, not just for the cash, but out of fairness to everyone who follows the rules.
It's a culture shift from pay if you feel like it to everyone pulls their weight.
Exactly. So that was 2025. They stopped the bleeding, signed the safety contracts, consolidated the banks, and started chasing the debts. Now, we get to the main event.
The 2026 budget proposal. The plot twist.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
I put myself in the shoes of a resident at that meeting. I'm sitting there feeling good about the cleanup. And then they put up the slide with the big numbers. The previous budget for 2025 was about 150,000 euro. The new proposal for 2026, over 193,000.
That is a jump of over 43,000 euros.
If I see that, I'm immediately thinking my monthly fee just went up by 30%. I'm raising my hand. I'm probably shouting.
And you should be. That is a massive hike. But GEST anticipates this. Their justification is really interesting. They don't apologize for the increase. They actually attack the old budget.
They called the old budget sub-evaluated and dispersed.
They're basically saying the old budget was a lie, or at least a fantasy. It was artificially low because it wasn't accounting for reality. It exposed the condo to those technical and legal risks we talked about.
So the argument is, you weren't saving money before. You were just deferring maintenance and praying nothing broke.
Precisely.
Yeah.
They call the new budget realistic, preventative, and professional. They're telling the owners, this is what it actually costs to run this building properly without risking a fire or a lawsuit.
So let's look at where that extra 43 grand is going. Water goes from 10,000 to 14,500. And there's a completely new line item for gas and AQS that's hot water, right?
Yes. Sanitary hot water.
And that's 12,000 euros. Then you have maintenance for the pool, the garden, that's all up.
But look at the biggest block. The administration and cleaning line. It's about 54,000 euros.
It seems huge.
It is. But notice what they did. In the past, those costs were probably hidden or split across different categories to make them look smaller. MBD GEST consolidated them. They're saying, stop pretending these costs don't exist. Here's exactly what it costs to manage and clean this place. It's shocking, but it's honest.
Okay, honesty is great. Realistic is great. But my bank account doesn't care about honesty. It cares about the bottom line. If the budget goes up 43,000 DIR, surely my quota has to go up.
Right.
But the report claims the impact is minimal. How is that physically possible?
This is the magic trick. Or what they call revenue engineering.
Okay, break it down. How do you spend 43,000 more without asking the owners for it?
So the administration isn't just asking for more money from the general pot. They have identified something called extraordinary revenue. Specifically, they project 43,000 euro in new income that didn't exist in the 2025 budget.
Wait, 43,000 in new income. That is suspiciously the exact amount the budget increased by.
It's not a coincidence, it's a rebalancing. Here's where it comes from. 35,000 euros from AQS hot water consumption and 8,000 from electric vehicle charging.
Okay. I'm starting to see the picture. This is the user pays model.
Exactly. In the report, they use the phrase paga quem consume, the user pays.
So walk me through how this actually changes things for a resident, because this is the aha moment.
Okay. In the old system, the building gets a massive bill for gas to heat the water and electricity for cars in the garage. That bill is paid by the condominium, which means everyone splits it based on their apartment size.
So if I take cold showers and ride a bicycle, I'm paying a share of the gas for my neighbor who takes 3-hour hot baths.
And you're paying for the electricity for your other neighbor to charge his Tesla every night. You are literally cross-subsidizing their lifestyle.
That seems incredibly unfair now that you put it that way.
It is, and it's inefficient.
Yeah.
So MBD GST is flipping the model. They're taking those costs out of the general common expenses bucket. Now they're going to bill the specific users.
If you charge your car, you pay for that electricity. If you use a ton of hot water, you pay for that gas.
That's it. It is so clever because technically the budget for the building did go up. The building still has to pay the utility provider.
Right. They still have to write the check.
But the money to cover that check isn't coming from the general pot anymore. It's coming from the specific users reimbursing the condo.
So let's look at the final math. Gross expense, 193,554. Less revenue from users, 43,000 euro. Net cost to owners, 150,554.
Which brings us back to almost the exact same number as the previous year.
The difference is, let me check my notes, £479.90 for the entire building for the whole year.
Which is the 0.32% increase, less than 0.5%.
That is wild. So they managed to upgrade the maintenance, sign all those critical safety contracts, professionalize the cleaning, and basically increase the building's standard of living for free.
Free in the sense that your base quota, your fixed monthly fee doesn't really go up. But really what they did was stop the leakage. They stopped the low usage owners from paying for the high usage owners.
It's fascinating because it solves a political problem too. You can't argue against safety contracts if the administrator looks you in the eye and says, it won't raise your fixed fee.
Exactly. It removes the friction. But I think there's a deeper layer here than just politics. It's about sustainability.
How so?
We talk about the tragedy of the commons. If hot water is free, meaning everyone just splits the bill equally, I have zero financial incentive to conserve it.
Right. I can leave the tap running all day.
And your bill only goes up by pennies because the cost is diluted across 100 neighbors. It's like an all-you-can-eat buffet.
You eat way more than you need because you've already paid for it.
Exactly. But if I get a bill at the end of the month specifically for my hot water usage, suddenly I care. I start taking shorter showers. By monetizing individual consumption, they're not just balancing the books. They are almost certainly going to reduce the building's total energy footprint.
Because people respond to incentives.
Always. It's behavioral economics applied to building management.
You know, what stands out to me is the tone of this whole report. Usually condo admins are defensive, like, sorry, we have to ask for more money. This one is so confident.
It's the difference between administration and management. The old budget was focused on cost minimization. Let's spend as little as possible. But the result was risk. Risk of failure, risk of debt, risk of decay.
Which eventually hurts property values. If I'm trying to sell my apartment and the lobby's dirty and the elevator's glitchy,
You're losing money on the sale. MBD GST is shifting to value optimization. The new budget costs more on paper, sure, but it buys predictability. It buys the assurance that the generator works. It preserves the asset.
it's the difference between buying a cheap car that breaks down every month versus a reliable one that costs a bit more upfront.
And for the residents, specifically the ones who aren't energy hogs, this is a massive win. They get a better, safer building for the same price.
Unless, of course, you're the guy with the Tesla who takes 3-hour hot showers.
Yes, that guy. He is going to be very unhappy at that meeting. His bill is going up. But the argument is, why should his neighbors subsidize him?
It's hard to argue with that logic. It really is a masterclass in how to present bad news. Spending is going up, wrapped in good news. It won't cost you anything.
It's transparency, weaponized to solve a problem. By showing exactly where every cent goes, they remove the mystery. And when you remove the mystery, you usually remove the anger.
So, zooming out, why should anyone listening to this care about the budget of one building in Portugal?
Because Horizon is everywhere. We all live in communities, whether it's a condo, a co-op, or just a neighborhood with an HOA, and we all face this exact tension. Keep fees low versus keep things working.
The eternal battle.
It is. And this deep dive shows that sometimes the answer isn't to cut costs. Sometimes the answer is to structure the costs differently, to be smarter about who pays for what.
It's a shift from just being cheap to being fair.
And fair usually ends up being cheaper in the long run because you aren't fixing disasters, you're preventing them.
I think that's the takeaway. We started this talking about a stack of boring papers, and we ended up with a lesson in behavioral economics and risk management.
Not bad for a condominium report.
Not bad at all. So here is my final thought for you listening. Next time you get that envelope in the mail with your condo fees, don't just file it. Take a real look.
Ask yourself, am I paying a flat rate for something that varies wildly between my neighbors? Am I subsidizing someone else's lifestyle?
And more importantly, is my building saving money by not servicing the fire alarm? Because there is a very, very expensive difference between low cost and high value. Think about that. Thanks for listening, everyone.
See you next time.